Welcome to BFC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BFC Live highlights the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on BFC Live, we connect with Travis Higginbotham. He is the Vice President of Production for Harborside. We connect with him from Salinas, California to talk about the sustainability practices they have in place at their facility in Monterey County. Travis, thanks for being here.
Yeah, Jay, happy to be here.
Well, we're doing this obviously digitally, but tell me exactly where sort of you operate from and sort of what the area is like, because I think that's interesting.
Sure. No, right now I'm at the farm here in Salinas at the Harborside campus. And I mean, it's beautiful outside. It's we're getting into what's called the Indian summer here in California, so it's starting to get warmer, but yeah, I can't complain.
Tell us, so I used to live in the Bay Area, so I get what Salinas is and what it's about. For those that don't know, tell us a little bit about Salinas and the area, and maybe even the sort of agricultural roots of it.
Sure. So we're in this what's called the Salinas Valley, right? And so this valley is dominated by traditional agriculture. So predominantly leafy green growers, but as you know, many out there have probably heard of the names like Driscoll and Taylor Farms. We have a lot of the big players are producing cannabis, strawberries, vegetables, leafy greens, all of it now. And so surrounding our production campus and our greenhouses is pretty much artichoke growers. I'll see kale and broccoli and lettuce every day. So it's a huge mecca for agricultural production, has been for decades.
Yeah, and if for those that don't know, if maybe I mean, I've read Steinbeck a lot. Read a Steinbeck book, you'll get a good sense of what sort of Salinas and the agricultural roots are like.
Yeah. No, it's a different world out here, and it is 100% agriculture for sure.
Yeah.
And I hope maybe today we can touch on some of the misconceptions associated with that. But no, and the reason it's here is because it's a great place to grow.
Yeah.
And we have moderate temperatures year round, low humidity, great airflow, some of the highest light levels in the country. And so that makes it an exceptional place to grow.
And so talk about, well, give me a sense, you called it the campus. Tell us what is on the campus and sort of how you're growing and sort of what the capacity is.
Sure. So we have 47 acres out here in Salinas, all of it as one single property, multiple greenhouses. So we have about 20 flowering licenses here on site. But outside of that, we also have all post-harvest drying facilities, processing facilities, packaging and distribution facilities, all on this property. So that's why we refer to it as a campus.
It's a robust campus.
Yes, it is.
Talk a little about, because what I want to talk to you about is sort of the sustainability of how people are growing, specifically cannabis. Because as we've seen, I'm in Canada, the grows that we go to are, super locked down. The energy use is intensive, and I think is the next wave of what we're going to see, maybe in terms of regulations, but certainly in terms of sustainability, is that cannabis producers need to cut down their energy usage, but maybe other sustainability too, water usage, discharge. Talk a little about how you approach that from your perspective.
Sure. So, one thing that I've realized through working here at Harborside, specifically at this location, is that we're governed pretty much by Monterey County. And the county is known for, having some of the most robust regulations around environmentally friendly production that there is. And it's mainly due to the agriculture that's here. But we are regulated more so than any other county in the state, if not in the country. And so automatically we have to abide by certain environmental practices, recording practices, energy usage, you name it, water capture already. And so, from a production standpoint, it can be somewhat of a headache sometimes. But at the end of the day, especially now, we got to do absolutely everything we can to reduce our negative environmental impact. So how we go about it regarding, Harborside's view on environmental impact is that we're touching every single facet throughout production with reducing our negative environmental impact. And so, one of the ways that we've done that is, we grow in greenhouses. We don't grow in a field, nor do we grow in completely climate controlled facilities. It's in greenhouses. And so during certain times of the year, we need to supplement light. right, in order to, satisfy our customer demand with just consistent product. And so with that, we've made decisions to only use LEDs in place of HPS. And I know that that's quite ever present now within the cannabis industry. I know probably a few years ago that wasn't so predominant, but it is now. People are starting to realize you can grow just as good quality, if not better, more energy efficient, lower cost under LEDs. But when you think about it from a carbon footprint or just energy usage in general, if we look at kind of a one-to-one of HPS to LED, similar light intensity at canopy level, you could potentially reduce your energy cost by 40%. So, we've automatically done that, and we'll continue to use, efficient technologies for supplementing lighting, which is at the end of the day one of our highest energy consumptions. Outside of that, we have an environmental control system called Priva, pretty commercially used globally for all different crops. But what this does is it allows us to automate everything instead of having all environmentals and greenhouses being manual, which is then subject to human error and other things of which then could be very wasteful. So all of that is now automated, which is great. But then we also, even regarding nutrition, you had mentioned kind of briefly fertilizer. The county regulates our nitrogen usage. And if you've ever grown before, nitrogen is a key player in just overall plant growth in general. And so we're quite strategic at how we go about formulating our fertilizers and properly applying fertilizers so that we can maximize plant growth while still being environmentally friendly. But with that, it's also important to understand where the fertilizer is going, what substrate you're using. And so just recently, Harborside switched from cocoa being a predominant, part of our soil mix to now using wood fiber. And so wood fiber is grown here in the United States. Most cocoa is sourced from either India or Mexico. But it also holds water differently and allows us to manage salts differently than other substrates that are more porous and allow that to just leach out of the bottom of the pot. So we're looking at it from all sides of cultivation, how we can be more sustainable.
And it's of course, I'm a geek and I like talking to people who are super into it, which is compelling, but sort of from the soil to the fertilizer to the energy use to the lights to sort of how you sort of set up and automate things, like that part of it is like good, I don't know, governments or environmental sustainability practices. Part of it is regulated by Monterey County. But as you said, that's among the strictest in California in terms of regulations. That said, I would think that positions Harborside well the way you cultivate, because other counties throughout California, but even throughout the country, are going to get to where Monterey is at some point. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. You think about, think about New York, right? Like they're going to be, opening up a huge market. It's like, my guess is New York will look a lot more like Monterey than maybe other parts of California, just based on sort of the regulatory environment of these places. And I guess that's sort of, you may be tending new ground, but you may be breaking new ground with sort of this holistic approach, but others are going to follow suit. And is that sort of part of the thinking, or is that just a nice sort of it's just a nice benefit?
Well, I think when they originally decided to use this location, it was predominantly based on growing plants at this location. What is the most ideal location to grow plants? And it just so happened that was in Monterey County in Salinas Valley. And I completely agree with you. There's things that we're being mandated to do that most counties, it's not even a thought right now, that are soon going to be regulated, and they will have to change to be more environmentally friendly from a regulatory standpoint. But once you have a basic understanding of plant growth, you can manipulate your system in multiple different ways to become more environmentally friendly, period, right? So we can always continually improve no matter what the regulations are, and that's up to us as individual companies to do. And so I think Harborside, kind of has a step forward based on the county, but we as a company believe in our, environmental footprint and reducing that as a whole.
Yeah. And I think that's from a sort of environmental sustainability perspective, but I also think there's not a great amount of knowledge from a consumer perspective, how the plant is grown. But as that becomes more widely known, I think consumers will be drawn to brands and products that are grown in more sustainable ways, just like we do with our lettuce down the street from you.
Yeah, and I hope the same way that consumers hold, their food producers accountable, they start to hold cannabis producers accountable, because there's producers like Harborside who, would love the opportunity to properly educate the consumer, of which, like you said, they're not properly educated right now. And it would allow them to have the proper value on our products,
right,
because of that. And I do believe that the cannabis consumer is more environmentally conscious than let's say other consumers, in that it would be a productive change for the industry if they were educated on this.
Yeah, I mean, the benefits are far-reaching, both from a corporate perspective, from a consumer and brand perspective, probably from an investor perspective as well, right? These things are much more on the fore of sort of how the society is thinking about growing anything. It just takes leaders like Harborside to both obviously be compliant, but also sort of think ahead to what is down the road and how consumers are going to want to consume brands, what's right for the company, and then sort of how to implement that earlier than later as you want to do, not necessarily how you need to do, and sort of be ahead of that curve.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Yeah, it can't happen soon enough.
Especially for you guys. Well, I really appreciate you spending time, because I have a soft spot in my heart for Salinas, well, and California overall. But it is interesting and compelling to think about sort of how you are dealing with it from lighting, from energy, from soil, from sort of, from automation. All those things are wrapped up in this, and I think that's compelling to think about and hear about. And I want to thank you for your time, but hope we can have you back, and maybe one day we'll visit you in Salinas.
Yeah, no, you're welcome anytime. Yeah, it's been fun, and we're really enjoying growing out here in Salinas. So
yeah, well, maybe we'll look for some photos. Maybe you'll send us some photos, and we'll post them. We'll post them with this, and we'll get folks a good view of what's happening in Salinas. Travis, I really appreciate your time. We look forward to connecting with you down the road.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeff.
That was Travis Higginbotham from Harborside. If you like this program, please rate and review us wherever you heard the show to help support the work we do. We're able to do what we do because of our ongoing partners, including Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque & Mains. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.